heads with me as we go to God in prayer. We know that God has all things working together for good within our journey, within our lives. Let's just rest in that one thought. All things work together for good. Loving God, this we know to be our truth. We proclaim this as we speak out and declare from the depths of our hearts. The loving presence of God has been journeying with us, is with us now, and will ever be with us. And in that sweet, sweet presence, there is an unfolding of all this wonderful comfort, peace, assurance. As we hold on to the spiritual truth, all things, everything in its completeness is working together for good around us. So our eyes shift in this moment from seeing those things that may be challenging or disruptive or discouraging or sad to only seeing how God is at work and the unfolding of the beauty and the majesty of the greatness of God, manifesting incredible things. Our hearts are filled with gratitude for each and every one in this sanctuary who has gone through some challenges this week, but knowing that God has been with them, they found the goodness. They've experienced the joy, and we offer gratitude and praise and thanksgiving for that. Thank you for the ways that you've led and guided our journey, and we acknowledge with a heart of great appreciation the unfolding that you're doing for this congregation in its future, and how you are leading and guiding us in new directions and on new pathways to be the people of God you've desired us to be. We're all grateful for it. And so in this heart of appreciation, in this sense of knowing that we are one in this holy, sweet, sweet presence, we now rest and breathe and proclaim this is a moment of greatness, for the Spirit is speaking now to our hearts and our lives. And we proclaim it and declare it as together we say, and so it is. Amen. Well, I don't know if you're like me, but your first steps of the early morning head towards the counter for that cup of coffee. Yes, how wonderful it is to have these coffee makers that are there with the wonderful brew, the wonderful beverage of the morning of the AM journey that we depend on so much. And if you're like me, you set out that cup, you pour that delicious coffee in. You may take some cream and sugar and you begin to stir, and as you gaze into that coffee cup and you see the swirling of the milk and of the sugar and the coffee, and all of a sudden you're looking down and going, whoa, this looks like a whirling, swirling mess. Is this a metaphor for my life today? Some days, honestly, I feel, whoa, there's just so much going on. Because these are extremely exciting times for us at First MCC. And sometimes I feel just like this. I'm in this churning. I'm in this wonderful place because it's just all swirling and moving around. There's a lot of, shall we say, living in the gray area. We don't have a lot of black. We don't have a lot of white. We're just in the, shall we say, churning moments where everything is churning around and churning around for us. Are we at our churning point? Not a turning point, but a churning point. In that moment when we feel everything moving around us and there's so much uncertainty for us. Sometimes as a congregation we may feel that, as some people have already voiced questions of saying, what's our future? Where will we be? How will this go? What will tomorrow hold for us? It's exciting. It's full of opportunity and infinite possibilities. But sometimes we like to anchor and hold on to security of knowing definites. And so when we don't have all of that clarity in our lives, we suddenly feel like we're in that churning. We're in this whirlwind. We're like the stirring of the coffee in the morning. We're like in that spinning moment where we just say, how do we handle all this, which seems to be almost agitation or what turmoil or change or shift. And we're caught in the mix of it all. It's a wonderful spiritual place as well, because it's a place that says, here's your chance to exercise that which you know and that which you believe. I love it because in our spiritual life, isn't it incredible that there's always an opportunity for you to do what you do best? Now, in life, sometimes we say, well, I wish I had an opportunity to sing. I wish I had an opportunity to be highlighted or to share my talents. I wish I could go somewhere and where someone would see, hey, I've got something to offer. I'm looking for these opportunities. I want to show my very best. Let me tell you this, in the spiritual walk with God, every day is an opportunity for you to show your very, very best. It's your opportunity to reveal to the world, this is what I believe, this is who I am, this is where I come from. I want to let that light shine for all the world to see. Now, in the midst of that turning point of this whirlwind, here's your chance, here's your opportunity. What is it you know? What is it you believe? Here's your chance to profess it. Here's a chance to let it shine. There was a high school teacher, and she had chosen to retire, but the superintendent of the schools came to her and said, we'd love for you to stay on. Would you be interested in teaching just one more year? You see, we've got this really challenged group of students, and you'd be excellent. You'd be wonderful. Could we just paint the vision of possibilities of you working just one more year? Would you stay on? But I want to warn you, this is a very tough group. In fact, these kids have been known to bring guns and knives into the classroom. They often can be very disrespectful. But if you'll take this job, I want you to know we'll provide security there for you. We'll make sure that you're safe and you're cared for and watched over. But if you just would work with these students, I know amazing things would happen. And she thought for a moment, and she said, I was really hoping to retire. But I sort of caught the vision. I see the possibility. I'm excited. I'm up for the challenge. I'll do it, but no security person. I just want to go in there and be with the kids and share and challenge them. And I know great things are in store. So her first day of school, when she met these students, this sort of rowdy, disrespectful group, all slouching down in their chairs and looking like maybe they could be packing some guns and knives, she took a deep breath and she said to them, I know we have some discipline problems in this room. And in the past, this has been a challenging class. But I want you to know you kids are geniuses. And you need to perform at that level. You are geniuses. And my expectation is that you're going to do this year in performing on a genius level. And she reminded them of that every single day. And at the end of the year, there was amazing success. And the teacher was given an award. And in this great ceremony amongst all of her peers, they acknowledged and applauded her for her work with this class and the great successes with each one of these students' lives. And one of the teachers said, just with amazement, wow, how did you do this? How did you bring those kids to that level? Well, she simply said, when I began, my first day, I was given a list of all the students. And I was given all their IQ numbers. And I realized, wow, these are high IQ numbers. These are all amazing geniuses. Their potential is incredible. And just then she was interrupted. Oh, Miss Jones, that list, that wasn't their IQ list. That was the list of their locker numbers. The beauty was, she didn't know the difference. The beauty was, in a classroom that was known for chaos, had experienced a great transformation. Something amazing happened in that room and changed the whole environment and empowered those kids, those students, to perform at a much, much higher level than they ever had it before. It was a level of expectation that the teacher held for them because it was the level of her knowing. Something amazing when we think about the level of our knowing. What is it we know? And to what level or to what degree, as we've talked about in the past, do we hold it dear to our hearts as we think about God? God's miraculous ability and God's wonderful view of potential in each and every one of us and God's amazing investment in us. What is it we know about that? And what do we know about our relationship with God and how this wonderful, immense power, this infinite presence, this all-knowing is part of us and we're part of it? What do we know about that? And how do we live from that knowing? And what do we do when we're in this world of chaos that's around us like this classroom setting? Well, this simple story illustrates for us that when we're at our turning points, when it seems like the world is whirling around us and there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, a lot of what may seem to appear like transition and change, and the world around us seems to be swirling in a churning mess, Well, there's an amazing place to be, and that place is that place called knowing. It says, I know. I know. I know. Knowing who God is, knowing that God is ever present, that God is our comfort, that God is our refuge, our place of strength, knowing without a doubt that we don't even flinch, but we rest and we just breathe and we anticipate because we're in the swirl, we're in the movement, we're in the midst, what others may call chaos, but we're actually in this wonderful moment, a turning point of our lives. Let me tell you this. The psalmist already said it for us. Psalm chapter 46. You read it today. You found it on the back of your bulletin, and you may have said, oh, it seems a little verbose. It may seem a little bit heady. How do I wrap my head around it? So let me paraphrase it for you very simply. Here's what it's saying. And it's speaking to you, and it's your word for the day when you're at your turning point. Knowing the presence of God. This is our refuge and strength. Right there in the midst of my turning point, there is a presence. There is an awareness. There is God who is there with me, never leaving me nor forsaking me. Therefore, I will not fear. I'm not going to be afraid of anything, not anything. I'm not going to question or wonder. I'm not even going to engage in this spirit. That's what the psalmist is writing and saying. Though it seems that the very ground is shaking, though the very ground beneath me is maybe even gone, and what we've been used to standing on is not there anymore. And though the high places where I found safety are like the mountains and they're dumped into the chaotic waters of life, the mountains are gone. That which way I've gone to these vista points, these are the places where I always found safety, and they're gone too. The ground beneath me is gone, the mountains are gone, and yet in that place, the psalmist writes, and though the waters thereof roar and are troubled, and though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, here's the good word. There is a river. There is a river. It's wonderful symbolism as the psalmist is writing this passage to bring great comfort and to stir the knowing within each one's heart and life. It's symbolic of this. There's a river, there's a current of thought, the very flow of awareness of our thinking. There's this place that in the midst of all this chaos, here's this flow of thinking for you that says, oh, God is at work. All things are working together for good. I have nothing to be afraid of. There is a river and it's rushing through. It's flowing through like the streams of a mighty rushing river around us. Wherefore it makes glad the city of God. Now here's this picturesque story. Meaning this wonderful home, this place, in that case it was Jerusalem. But for us, our sacred place, our spirit now is at peace when this wonderful river of thought comes by us. This dawning, this awareness, this knowing that God is in the midst. God is in the midst of each and everything. God is in the midst of everything. God is in the midst of your today. God is in the midst of this moment. God is in the midst here. God is in the midst of you. And when we really embrace that, what are we afraid of? What do we worry about? What do we concern ourselves with? But we should only have this broad, wonderful smile come across our face that simply says, oh, that's right. I know that I know. God is in the midst of this. The psalmist says, I just have to be still. I just have to be still. Kind of hard to do in the midst of your turning point, isn't it? Everything about you is inviting you to say, oh, it's chaos, it's swirling. I don't know, there's no definite, there's no surety. I don't know where tomorrow holds. I'm not confident that I can say it's going to be this or that. It's just all swirling around me. And suddenly in the midst of that, the psalmist says, just be still. What, be still in the midst of a churning moment? Be still? You're asking something very challenging of me. But then I realize that's what we do the best when the world of chaos comes around us. When we quiet ourselves, all things work together and come to us. Did you ever lose something and you're a little bit panicking, you're frightened, you're afraid, you're scared, I've lost it and it's something valuable? Your keys. You lost your keys? Yeah, we're all famous for that one. How about raising some hands? Anybody here lose your keys? And you just, oh, now what have I done? You know. And you're now, waves of fear come against you, right? Thoughts of fear that are overwhelming you. It's coming against you more and more. What am I going to do? I won't be able to get home. I can't get in the house. I don't know where I'm going to do. I can't drive my car. What's this going to mean for me? And then we always jump way down the road, don't we, with the thinking about all the worst case scenarios in our lives, and we're just swept away in the churning moments. We're at that churning point. But then when we stop and just simply say, God knows where those keys are. I know where those keys are. For the mind of God is my mind. And I'm not going to churn. I'm not going to swirl. I'm not going to get caught up in the craziness. I'm not going to welcome that kind of thinking. I'm just going to be still and know. And it's amazing in those moments, what comes to us is called clarity. And suddenly we begin to see and recognize the world in a whole different way. And we go, I know exactly where they are. And suddenly it comes together and we're able to locate those. And this is a simple scenario of the day-to-day journey of our life, because when you're caught up in all the chaos and drama, you're just called to be still, and when you're still, it's amazing what unfolds for you. Because in stillness, God speaks, God shows, and God reveals. So this is the kind of depth of knowing that we need to live from. To know that you know, even in the midst of your greatest worries or moments of being overwhelmed. To come to those places where you can just relax and rest because you say, I just know. It's like a foundation. When every other foundation has been rocked and removed from you, I mean the foundations of your world. You lost your job. Maybe your family has changed. You're moving. You're going to another transition of life. Something's changing around you and you feel like all that was solid and normal and sane is gone. Your new ground, your spiritual ground that you're anchored and standing on, is the knowing that God is in the midst of it. It's interesting to note that Jesus was not so much a product of book learning. At least we don't have any records that Jesus read this book or that book outside the scriptures, or that he studied with a self-help group, or that he went here or there. We don't know that, but what we do know is that he was a product of a wonderful thing called oneness, being so one with God. He was a product of this strong awareness that he and the source of all, the heavenly parent, were not two, not divided, not separate, but in all cases, all scenarios, all moments of life, one. Now we sing it this morning. We sang, make us one, Lord, make us one. Holy Spirit, make us one. Do we really know what that means? Because this is what Jesus professed and how he lived from, to say, I'm not separate from God. I'm not walking this world all alone. I'm not removed from all the gifts, the skills, the power, the presence, the might of God. It's there with me. I am not alone in this journey. I am one with God, and the oneness says that I am created by God, and I'm a child of God, and all that is of God is in me. There is healing power. There is strength to endure. There's ability to bless others and to love immensely. There is power to declare the miraculous. All of that, you've got it. That's right. It's you. Do you know that? The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 12:10, and he has said unto me, the Spirit of God has said to Paul, my grace, or God's power and strength, is sufficient for you. For power is perfected in weakness. In other words, grace, this power, it's sort of magnified and manifested in those moments of great challenge and when you feel your weakest. Most gladly, therefore, Paul writes, I would rather boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I am well content with weakness or insults, with distress or persecutions, with difficulties, or when I'm at my turning point. I'm okay. For Christ's sake, for when I am weak, I am strong. When I'm in the midst of all this whirling stuff, I am strong. That's what God is saying to you. Here's your chance. Demonstrate it. Show what you know. Prove it. Speak it. Live it. Shine like a light. Let the world see the strength of God at work. manifesting through you and working in you because it's there. We need to proclaim that. When I am weak, I am strong. Say it with me. When I am weak, I am strong. That sounds kind of weak to talk about strength that way. Let's do it a little bit more forceful. When I am weak, I am strong. It's a real strong proclamation that really says this is the way we're called to live, because there's a great author that wrote to many and challenged the lives of success-oriented people to say, it's no longer possible for you to live as pale versions of yourself. Pale versions. Sort of anemic, weak. It's no longer possible in this world because there's a call for people to live with the vibrancy and fullness, with every aspect of your life to the greatest level. Today's world, to be our very best, we must be strong and aware, to be at the place where we need to go, when we're at that place where we need to go deeper, to know that that deeper moment with God is there for us to exercise. And it now becomes, this is our MO for living. I now live and exercise. I am proving, I'm showing, I'm revealing. I'm telling the world is swirling. Yes, who cares? I know that in this moment, God is in the midst. Our very strength in God comes from our devotion to this seeking and knocking. Scripture says in Matthew 7:7, because this tells us, how do we come to know this? How do we really get to have this firm foundation? Because a lot of people say, I don't have it. I get caught up in the wind. A small breeze goes by and I'm knocked over. Just someone says something bad to me and boom, I'm crushed, I'm devastated. Someone says one word and I want to give up. That's how fragile I am. So how is it you get to that place of knowing? Matthew 7:7, ask and it shall be given unto you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened unto you. You want to know more about this experience with God and the depth of it? Then what's your devotion to seeking, to knocking, to inquiring, to wanting to go deeper and deeper in this journey of understanding? Do you really, really want to do this Christian thing? Do you really want to do this walk with God? Do you really want us to do it? Well, then why don't we do it well? Successfully and to the fullest. Not a pale version of ourselves, but a vibrant one that understands and is dedicated over and over and over to the practice of knocking, seeking, asking, searching, and desiring more and more. In the dark night of equatorial Kenya, I had many, many moments walking home from church, and it is so dark. We'd been gathering outside of the main area of the village under maybe a big tree or a gathering space. But as the service went on with the dancing and the singing, and church there goes all day. You start in the morning, then you have a little break. You start in the afternoon, then you have a little break. Then you have the evening service. It goes on. Sun sets and you're still having church. Because this is what they do. And in that environment where it's church all day, many people are exhausted, and at the end of the night, when it's time to say, let's go back to the village, everybody scampers away and goes off on the pathways, and I'm there all alone going, wait a minute, I don't know the way back to the village. How do you get there? I'm like, this is crazy. I'm stumbling in the dark, and I don't know where to see, and I grab onto the shirts of the people in front of me and say, wait a minute, don't go, because I can't see, it's so dark. Now, mind you, this is a world with no street lights. This is a world with no house lights. This is a world without any beacons of light shining around and bouncing off the clouds. It's just the jungle, and it's dark. And I would turn to some of these people and say, it is so dark. I can't see but a few feet in front of me. How do you know where to go? How do you know where to walk? My guide would say, as a child, we walk these paths so many times with our Father that we know them by heart. We've practiced and practiced and practiced in the daylight. So when the nightfall comes, we can walk boldly knowing the way. And this is the journey of our life. Have you practiced and practiced and practiced so that when the turning moment comes, You can walk boldly in what may seem to be darkness where you don't know where it's going next and you can't see everything unfolding for you. And it's not all full of certainty, but instead you know the path because you walked it with God, knowing that God always ordains and makes a way for you. For when we practice our knowing, when we go over this truth over and over in our heads and our hearts until we feel it flowing like a river, it becomes just that. Peace. Peace in the midst. The psalmist says there is a river, a crystal clear stream that flows from God. This is a visual for us. Understand that this river is this wonderful thought process that's flowing from God to you saying, I will not leave you. So the invitation is to create a path to this river of knowing. Clear out anything its way and let it be the first thing that flows in your life because it's essential. It's the essential thing. One day there were 4 employees in an office complex, and they walked up to the company copy machine and began to argue who was going to have access to the copy machine first. You know, this line up, everybody said, I need it now, I need it now, I need it, and they began to argue. The woman from accounts payable said, folks, listen up. I should go first. After all, we will never succeed if I don't get all the company bills paid. The man from receivables says, wait. If I don't get all these funds registered, we're not going to have any money to pay those bills. The project manager jumped up and said, wait, I've got to manage the overall business. I need the copy machine first because, I've got to make sure we've got all the products to sell. And the last person cleared her throat and said simply, folks, I'm from payroll. And the waters parted. Everyone let the lady through because this is priority. This is number one. Everybody realized, wait a minute, payroll, okay. She's the number one person. She gets the copy machine first. We need to create that kind of path to the depths of knowing, that we remove all these distractions in anything way because this is priority one for our life. Priority one is the knowing, this anchoredness that is needed in your spiritual life, or you're never going to make it. You will not be standing on the rock. You will be building on sinking sand. And how important that is for our lives. Remove those distractions. Seek, knock, ask, learn. Till you've created a path to the fullness of knowing. My family had a summer cottage on Spencer Lake in Wisconsin years ago. It was the Graetz cabin. Every year when the winter subsided and spring began to come forth, someone from the Graetz family would make their way out to the cabin to try to open it up and make it ready for the season. And different cousins and relatives would share some time in this rustic old cabin with just 2x4s on the walls and boards nailed up. No windows, but just some screen wire attached over openings with shutters. That summer cottage, the first thing that they did as they opened up the cabin was always, someone needs to clear a path to the lake. Over the fall and the winter, it seemed like debris and brush or weeds grew up, but the most important thing was that pathway to the lake. Why? Because you went to the cabin to go to that place of serenity and peace at the shore of the lake. That was the most important thing. The cabin wasn't that beautiful, wasn't that great or accommodating. But let me tell you, to be on the shore of the lake and watch the sunset, that was priceless. To make the pathway clear was priority one, because we got to a place of quiet moments and a place of great renewal. Now the choice is ours to awaken, to go deeper into this wonderful knowing when the world is at a turning point and you are feeling that the world is swirling around you. How about it? Is the psalmist speaking the message to you that there is a refuge, there is a fortress, there is an anchor, there is a rock, and God is in the midst of whatever you're going through, and God is in you, with you, and around you. Now, do you know that? Because the choice is yours to know. And if you don't, you need to beat a path, clear a path, make a way, remove all obstacles, because that pathway is as valuable as the woman doing payroll. Because the bonus and the payoff is there for you when you make it to this wonderful place. that I know that in the stillness I'm with God, and I can be at rest and peace. And I'm not at a churning point, but instead I'm at a resting point in God's presence. Amen.